All right, I think we should go ahead and get started. So hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining us for this panel today. We're going to be talking about student clubs and orgs at Oberlin, of which we have more than 175. So there really is anything based on your interests or what you want to get involved in. So my name is Nathan. I use he, him, his. I am the director of the PAL and SOAR programs. I'm going to talk briefly about PAL in a moment, but I want to say first that I'm also a 2020 graduate of Oberlin, so I just graduated a couple days ago. Thank you. And while I was a student, I was involved with a number of student clubs and orgs on campus, predominantly the Oberlin Review, which is our student newspaper, which I edited for 2 years and was on staff for all 4 years of my time at Oberlin. I was involved with some other clubs as well. I won't talk about them too much because I know we're going to hear a lot about the various clubs on campus from our 4 panelists. I just wanted to introduce myself a little bit. I'm dropping in the chat a link to information about the PAL program. And I know by now you have probably heard about the PAL program. So PAL stands for Peer Advising Leaders. The 4 students here with us today are Peer Advising Leaders, or PALs. And the idea is that when you start at Oberlin, every first year and every new incoming student has a PAL. And that PAL is an older student who works with you throughout orientation in the fall semester to make sure that you're connected to the resources that you need in order to succeed during your first semester and beyond. And so you'll be hearing lots more about PAL as the summer goes on. The program is connected to the first year seminar program. So you'll be in a cohort of students that shares both a class together and is in the same PAL cohort. And again, all those details will be emailed to you throughout the summer, so stay tuned. But I just wanted to give a little bit of context for who these 4 wonderful people are joining us today. And so I'm going to turn it over to them in a moment to let them introduce themselves. But first I want to say that as we're going along, feel free to drop any questions you have in. If you're joining us by Zoom, you can put them in the chat, just chat them to all panelists. And if you're watching along on Facebook, you can just comment them, and I'll be monitoring in both places, and I'll relay your questions to the panelists. So I'll hand it over to them in a sec, but I do really want to emphasize that these are people starting with your first day at Oberlin that will help you get connected with opportunities and organizations on campus that will be meaningful to you. And just a quick story about my own time at Oberlin. So the PAL program did not exist when I was a first year. It began when I was a sophomore, but I was lucky enough to have an older student in my life, my RA, Ify, who graduated in 2019. And she was a really important mentor of mine. And it was because of her that I ended up meeting a lot of other older students on campus and got connected to the orgs that I would spend the rest of my time at Oberlin with, but also my academic research and various other opportunities as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about mentorship later on, but I just wanted to share that with you all at the beginning. So I'm going to hand it over first to Akira to introduce herself, and then why don't we go down the line with each PAL calling on the next one.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Akira. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a rising senior studying math and neuroscience at Oberlin. And at Oberlin, I'm involved with Japanese Students Association, or JSA, Asian American Alliance, which is also shortened as AAA, Multi, which is a group for multi-ethnic, multiracial, multinational students on campus. And I used to be a part of Nothing But Trouble, which is an a cappella group on campus, as well as, I'm still a part of OCT, which stands for Oberlin College Taiko. And taiko is a Japanese traditional drum. And I'm also involved with TWIC, which stands for Third World Co-op, which is a dining co-op where students cook and clean after themselves. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Am I forgetting anything? I think I got everything.
What's something that you're doing to fill your time while you're at home?
Yes, thank you. I've been cooking a lot and baking. I've baked about 4 banana breads, I think. But I've been cooking a lot of like fried rice. I just made some like Thai curry today. So yeah, and that goes hand in hand with like eating a lot too. So yay, quarantine. But yeah, I'll pass it along to, I think Anissa was next.
I'm Anissa. I use she, her. I'm going to be a third year. I'm a politics major. I am one of the incoming editors in chief of the Review, which is the weekly student newspaper. I've also been involved with the radio, having a radio show on WOBC. I work at the music venue, which is called The SCO, and I'm also involved in co-ops. I'm from Indiana. I don't know if I said that. And something I've been doing while sheltering in place is going on a lot of bike rides with my family. And I got into drawing again, so that's been really good. I'll pass it to Henry.
My name is Henry. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a rising fourth year. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm a comparative American studies and creative writing double major. And on campus, I'm involved in our student senate, as well as our literary magazine, or one of our literary magazines, the Plum Creek Review. And I've also been involved with Oberlin College Democrats and the Two Groves Review, another literary magazine. And I'll pass it to Fafa.
Hi, y'all. My name is Fafa. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I'm a rising second year. Some of the things I've been involved in on campus, I'm on the board of ABUSWA, which is Oberlin's Black Student Union. I am involved in ASA, which is the African Students Association. I'm also a member of And What, which is one of Oberlin's dance groups, and this group specializes in hip hop. Something that I've been doing to keep myself like busy and entertained over the summer is returning to reading. I used to read a lot, but I haven't had the time, of course, but now I do. So I've been reading a lot of books by Chinua Achebe. I read No Longer at Ease last week.
Cool. Well, thank you all so much for those great introductions. And yeah, we'll get started with questions. So one of the hallmarks of kind of the beginning of your time at Oberlin is what we call the Connexions Fair, where all the various student clubs and orgs will gather together and give out information about their organizations. And you can join email lists and talk to the officers and clubs that you're interested in. And so I'm curious to hear from the panelists. Obviously, we have the Connexions Fair, and that's a huge way people get connected to the clubs and orgs that you're in. But it's not the only way people can get connected. And so I'm curious if you could each talk about the ways that you got connected initially to student clubs and orgs at Oberlin, and hand in hand with that, whether the orgs that you joined your first year are the orgs that you're still a part of now.
So I can start again. I definitely heard about organizations like JSA, Japanese Students Association, and AAA, the Asian American Alliance, and Multi through the Connexions Fair. But it was also actually because of my pal, Kara, who was already very involved with AAA, who suggested to me that I should take a chance and try joining AAA. And I also had a friend of mine who was a first year at the same time I was a first year, and we were both mixed Japanese, so we heard about Multi and JSA through other mixed Japanese people at Oberlin. So yeah, I guess I found out a lot of my orgs through just meeting upperclassmen, and that was through classes and just also a lot of clubs will have a campfire or something, or a bonfire, or just socials. A lot of those happen at the beginning of the year, which helps you kind of like navigate through like what you want to become involved with. And in terms of if I still am involved with like the clubs and orgs I joined my first year, definitely I was like a very ambitious first year, and I think that is true for a lot of Oberlin students, and I joined like everything I could all at once. And I realized like a cappella wasn't a thing I wanted to continue all throughout, so I don't do that anymore. And after I held like officer positions for JSA and multi, I kind of took back to like focus more on things like Tycho and my academics. But I still do attend just like meetings and socials and things to meet new people and talk about like identity related things.
I can go next. Oh wait, unless Henry, were you gonna go next?
You're all good.
The way I got involved with the newspaper, which ended up being like probably the most like meaningful part of my Oberlin experience, was actually through Nathan. On very first week of school, he was being a pal, helping people sign up for classes, and I kind of mentioned that I wanted to write for a student publication. And he was like, oh, which one? And I was like, the Oberlin Review, I guess. And he was like, I'm the editor-in-chief. I would love to talk to you about like getting involved. And he got coffee with me and gave me his phone number and then introduced me to his co-editor, who also became a really great mentor for me alongside Nathan. And for me, like as a first year, literally in like this first week of school, to have someone like just be like, here's so much information about this thing that you're kind of interested in, was so like meaningful to me. And so like I just have seen that happen in OBs since. But that was like my introduction to that. I think in terms of like things that I've been like, that has been pretty much my one thing throughout my college experience, like my main thing. And I knew that I wanted to do some sort of journalistic thing in high school, but I wouldn't have thought that I would have wanted to do like print journalism. So I think for me, like, it's not that I've really shifted a bunch in terms of like what I envisioned myself doing in college, but like learning that that can happen through different channels and like different communities. Yeah, so kind of echoing like the co-student involvement and getting involved through older students. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I would, echo a lot of that as well. For the Plum Creek Review, which I'm pretty involved in, I was involved in my literary magazine at my high school. And so coming in my first year, I always thought I would get involved. I actually did not hear about it at the Connexions Fair. I had a few friends that had heard about it, and through just, wanting to stick around with my friends that very first week or two, a bunch of us went to the first meeting. And so I've kind of stuck around, been involved since then. But for Student Senate, I didn't get involved until my sophomore year, didn't really know much about it. But I'd had a few friends who were involved and suggested that I get involved. They thought that it might match up with my interests. Again, I didn't really know what it was, and so they had to kind of tell me a little bit about what it was. But they made it really easy to get involved. I felt very welcomed into the group and have stuck with that since. But that being said, that's something I was not involved in my first year. It's something that I did not expect to get involved in, but it's something that I have found really, really fulfilling and like absolutely enjoy being a part of.
For me, I echoing all these thoughts, a lot of it was like through word of mouth and like personal relationships with like some first years and like other upperclassmen that I had that were telling me about things on campus and stuff. And something else that was interesting for me personally, I was able to join like a BUSWA and ASA through like my relations living in program housing. So because a lot of the students in A House, which is the African Heritage House where I live, a lot of them are involved in different all sorts of different clubs and organizations based on identity, also not based on identity, excuse me. And just learning about the different clubs through other people that I was living with was really helpful because it could tell me, give the inside scoop. Oh, we're meeting here at this time, you should definitely come. And also another big help was the Facebook group that we had for the class of 2023, which I'm a part of. That a lot of people are posting just the things that they're doing and the clubs they're either making or the other events that are happening on campus. So honestly, I kind of kept my eyes peeled on that. And that's how I was able to find out more information about like ASA, and then also about the Oberlin Student Theater Association, and see like their plays, and also in a way be a part of that as well. Oh, and I'm a upcoming second year, so I plan to like just continue the things that I've been doing so far. I might add a few, and we'll see, of course, where that goes.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. I'm curious. I mean, some of you talk about how your involvements kind of went a direction you didn't necessarily expect coming into Oberlin, and I'm curious, kind of sticking with that theme of the unexpected. Obviously, we all had to, campus went remote in the middle of this semester, and so everything had to kind of be adjusted. And so I'm wondering, and I want to start with Fafa here, because we were just talking about and what's Instagram challenges. But I'm curious if some of you can talk about the ways in which your clubs have stayed connected and kept things going, even while everyone is kind of all spread out and not on campus.
So for and what, what's it called? Our officers have been doing like different like TikTok challenges, and we all post them on our and what OB's page, and just trying to like, keep everyone positive and spread more like positivity and joy, and just enjoy the thing that we love to do, which is dance. And for my other clubs, we've been keeping up, not just for like logistical purposes of like elections and trying to plan some things for next year and the directions we want to go. A lot of us has also just been like checking in and making sure our members are okay and asking like, hey, what's up and how are you doing? Yeah.
I can speak to like the review. So, normally we're a print publication that comes out once a week. We've been doing online coverage since we were dispersed around the country and around the world, which has been really cool to have like that kind of still community and structure in terms of still connecting back to things happening in the town of Oberlin and also with the school. And so I feel like having that work that we need to do, even though it's just online and it's a little bit more minimal than if we were publishing a full newspaper, has been like really helpful for me, especially connecting with people who I normally see every day. But definitely one of my favorite things is like when we're all in the office together. And obviously like that's not the same thing, but it's been really good to have that sort of structure.
Yeah, and for Student Senate, we fortunately were very like easily able to adjust to going remote. We have all of our meetings over Zoom, and so that transition has been fine for the most part. But I think that kind of what COVID-19 has really done for a lot of us on Senate is made us think back to what our original intentions were for joining Student Senate. We've had to think a lot about what work is needed on behalf of students. And so a lot of that is translated into working with administrators on grading reforms, just overall student support. But that's something that I think has kind of been a good thing that's come out of this is, we've had to go back to our original roots and like really, really look at our mission statement and think about why it is that we individually decided to join in the first place.
Yeah, a lot of the groups I'm involved with currently like have not done like remote meetings, except for maybe Tycho, where every year we have an exco, which is like an extracurricular course outside of like academic courses that students and teachers and community members of Oberlin can teach at Oberlin for credit actually. So since like our recruitment is through that exco and that was cut short, we've had to like have more of like logistical meetings about how we plan on continuing like our recruitment process, as well as how we plan to accomplish our goals as a group next semester, just because we have some like unfinished stuff from the semester. And unofficially, like I would say, like TWIC, the co-op where I eat lunch and dinner every day when I'm at Oberlin. We just usually like only meet during meal times, but there's also a strong sense of community within like the members of TWIC. So we have a group chat where we've been keeping in touch, and sometimes we'll have like group Zoom meetings, or we brought back house party and we've been like doing trivia with each other or drawing things on Scriblio. So that's been kind of a fun, like remote, informal, thing that we've done.
Thanks, everybody. And I want to tag off that a little bit. Akira and Fafa, you both have talked about being parts of identity-based and cultural orgs on campus. And so I'm wondering if you can expand a little bit on your experience with those organizations and what opportunities there are for students looking to connect with such groups.
Okay, I can jump right onto it. So as you can probably tell, I'm involved with a lot of organizations that are culturally based or based. I feel like growing up I'm from a suburb of Chicago, Schaumburg, if you're wondering. But it's pretty diverse, but I never really had like a group based around, or like an organization based around identity in high school. So I wasn't intentionally looking for a group like that, but once I got to Oberlin, I definitely found myself like being attracted to groups like Japanese Students Association, where I found other Japanese or Japanese American students and kind of got to explore like the differences as well as similarities across different Japanese students across the country, but also like around the world. And Multi, the student organization for multi-ethnic, cultural, or national students, has also been a cool way to like learn about other students' experiences and what it means to be like mixed in whatever sense they define mixed to be. And then of course, I didn't mention this earlier, but the co-op I'm a part of, Third World Co-op, is a co-op that's a safer space for people of color. And so it's been really nice to meet people of color, students of color at grown up like hearing a lot of taiko, whether it's been like in my suburb with like Japanese Americans like having their own taiko groups here, or visiting Japan and seeing Japanese taiko drummers too. So it's been really fun and pretty life-changing to be actually involved with something that connects me back to my like cultural heritage.
I'd say for me, I've grown up in predominantly white communities my whole life. So being able to like join groups and to live in a house where it's focused on my identity was really affirming, and it's really been a positive experience for me. And first of all, I'd say like all like for what I've experienced, all the groups for concerning identity have been really like affirming and really welcoming towards people for those identities and it's been really like a wonderful experience, honestly. And not just in terms of not just like providing a sense of community, it's also like a good way to like make connections and like network and like get to know people, but also get to know the opportunities that are on campus. Learning more about winter term and the different opportunities for that and within like different majors has been instrumental, but that's come from like all my involvement with Abuso and ASA, and also connecting with professors who are involved in these groups as well has come through that. So that's been a good moment of trying to just learn through people as well and get mentorship, and also hear about different opportunities and different things on campus as well.
Cool. Thank you both. I want to take a moment just to address a couple of the questions that we've gotten in the chat. The first is about Oberlin Astronomy Club, which we certainly have. I have never been a part of I don't know if anyone here has been a part of the Astronomy Club. But if you want to pass along your email address, I will track down the whoever is working with the Astronomy Club and put you in touch. So just send me your email address if you are curious, and just put in the chat if you're curious about the Astronomy Club. And then the other question we got is, how are PALs assigned to students? This is a really good question. So it works out based on the first year seminar that you're in. So depending, each PAL works with a cohort of students who also share the same first year seminar. And so that matching process happens after you all have been sorted into your first year seminars. And in that way, you have the same cohort of students that throughout their first semester, you share academic, co-curricular, and social experiences. So keep putting good questions here into the chat. Thank you for sending your email. I will follow up about the Astronomy Club. Yeah, keep sending questions along. But for now, I'm going to turn back to the panelists. And I'm curious to hear from each of you. You've touched on this in various ways already. But how has your involvement with the various clubs and orgs that you're a part of impacted other parts of your Oberlin experience as well? And I'll leave that broad and then get a little bit more specific in a moment.
In a very, I don't know, niche way, it's helped me like learn the geography of campus in a way, because, you have to have meetings in all sorts of different places for depending on the club, and whether I'm on a booth planning something at the root room and just like all sorts of things. It's just a nice way to like get out of maybe the dorm that you're living in and just be like, okay, this place is there and this place is here, and like get a bit of a better view on like what campus actually looks like in all of its corners.
For me, it's really allowed me an opportunity to explore what I'm learning in class. So, I mean, as a creative writing major, my work with the Plum Creek Review like very directly relates where I'm getting to like further my workshop experience, not only work on my own writing, but also work on the way that I view writing. So that's been really beneficial for me. But on like a Senate side, also as a comparative American studies major, I'm studying histories of social change, and so that really relates to what I'm doing on Senate as well, thinking about how these different issues that I'm learning about in class relate on a campus level, but then also thinking about how the issues impacting campus apply more broadly. So it's really built off of a lot of my classes and my majors in a really like interesting way.
I feel like my experience in student orgs has been like it's, I almost want to ask like the opposite question of like, in what way has it not been relevant to the rest of my Oberlin's like student life? Like kind of how Fafa said, like just sort of learning about the campus through both like going to different meetings, but also like the mentorship that you get through student orgs, and just like the things that I've been able to like, especially as a first year, like not really knowing anything. And then the way that I connected with older students was through student orgs, and then being able to ask them questions totally irrelevant from that organization that were just like things that I needed to know for whatever reason was really helpful. And also just like the educational component of pretty much all student orgs. Like I've learned so much through the newspaper, like as much as any of my classes. And I've really loved my classes, so that's saying a lot. But for me, it's been like deeply, deeply involved.
Yeah, I would really agree with Anissa as well. Yeah, I think a lot of my orgs the orgs that I'm part of are definitely like based around identity. And so that's helped me learn a lot about like who I am and how I fit into the greater society that we live in, I guess. But also it's been like, I think, yeah, all of my orgs helped me find like my best friends at Oberlin. And yeah, my Oberlin experience would not be anything like it is right now without having joined these orgs and like meeting all these really cool people, upperclassmen, people my age, and also like underclassmen now too. And yeah, I'm just like glad these orgs exist for that reason. And like Fafa and Anissa were saying, I feel like on the logistical end too, you really learned a lot about like the geography of Oberlin, as well as like what offices are in charge of what, like how do you invite a guest speaker to Oberlin? How do you invite a guest performer, like stuff like that. So that's been really cool too.
And so then I said I was going to get more specific, and here it goes. I'm wondering if any of you have had experiences where a student org that you're a part of has informed an experience or an opportunity that you pursued either for winter term or for a summer.
So for me, like my activities on campus have absolutely informed my work over the summer. So the past 2 summers I've done work in Congress, interning, and I took a semester working on a campaign this past year. And my work on Student Senate like really informed the decisions to take those opportunities, but also the work that I was doing on those during those opportunities. So on a campaign, I'm thinking a lot about organizing, and the internships I took in Congress were all about policy. And those are 2 things that do really come to play a lot when it comes to Student Senate, but they're things that I wouldn't necessarily think about in the ways that I do now had I not taken those opportunities and brought back that insight to my on-campus activities, but also vice versa. Like I wouldn't be as informed going into these opportunities if I had not done the work and gotten these experiences on campus. And I've often found that even the things that I do that don't seem directly related absolutely inform these experiences as well. So my work with the Plum Creek Review and with the different literary magazines on campus don't seem like they would directly tie into these more political experiences that I've had. But, you know, they absolutely, I've had access to opportunities in these spaces that other interns haven't, because I got this experience with writing and thinking creatively. And so I found that that's something that's actually set me apart, is that these non-related things that I've really looked into and got involved in because I'm just really interested in them and passionate about them are things that, you know, really have come into play in ways that I wouldn't even expect.
I would say my experience is kind of different from Henry's, but I definitely drew from my time in TWIC, again, my dining co-op that's run under Oberlin Students Cooperative Association, shortened as OSCA, where my past winter term, not this one, but the year before, I worked as an all-OSCA winter term treasurer, which kind of tied in my passion for OSCA and like the co-ops. But also I'm a math major, and like my love for like numbers and statistics and like data analysis. So that was a really cool way to kind of join my org experience with my academic experience at Oberlin to mash it together into a winter term experience.
Anissa, were you reaching for the mute button?
Kind of. I just have like a quick thing, which is the faculty member who is like technically the person who like oversees the review kind of is Jan Cooper, professor of rhetoric, who I've become pretty close with. And this winter term, I got to help her teach a class about podcasting, journalistic podcasting. I don't know if anyway, like that was a cool way to apply some of the skills that I'd learned through the review, and also a connection I made.
Yeah, that's awesome. Fafa, am I cutting you off, or are you ready to move on? Okay. And I want to add, and I'm going to turn to a couple of the questions in the chat in a second as well. But someone mentioned like bringing speakers and putting on events. And I just want to add that is absolutely something that you can do a lot of as a part of a club at Oberlin. And I'd be curious if folks here have examples to share. When I was editor of the review, we were able to put together a journalism symposium where we brought, I think it was 14 speakers to campus, and had a series of talks and workshops and panels for students who were interested in journalism or communications or writing or whatever it was. And that was all funded out of the Student Activities Fund, and was all under the umbrella of a student organization, and all organized by students. And stuff like that goes on every year. I'd be curious if the panelists have examples of either stuff you've been a part of organizing or stuff that you've attended that's been organized by a student org during your time on campus.
Yeah. So for Oberlin College Tycho, I wasn't officially part of Tycho when this happened, but I was taking the Exco to join it. But my friends who are upperclassmen who were in OCT at the time used the funding we got for OCT to bring a group called San Jose Tycho. And it was really cool to see them perform in Finney Chapel. And we pretty much like filled up the whole chapel too, which was really cool. But they're actually like one of the first, I think they're actually the second Tycho group to ever form in North America. So it was really cool to be able to bring them here, even though I wasn't part of that. But the next year for Day of Remembrance, which is a day in February, I don't know exactly when, but it's when we remember Japanese American internment camps. And we were able to bring, I was a secretary at the time, but as officers, we kind of worked together to bring in different speakers and organize events. And we were able to bring in actually someone who lives in Kendall, which is the senior living center in Oberlin, really close to college. And he was able to talk about his experiences and answer questions people had. And yeah, all of that was done through the budget that JSA had. And I learned a lot about like how to bring in guest speakers and like who you have to talk to, who has to sign papers and all that, as well as like contract writing, which was something very new to me.
Cool, thank you. And I think something I want to pull out of that as well as some of the other answers, is the way in which you can build real, tangible, real world skills through being a part of org. So Akira's talking about budget writing, contract writing. That's all stuff that clubs are regularly engaged in. Henry and Anissa are both talking about student publications and using that as, becoming better writers and editors and communicators. Fafa in the with And What, there are dance performances throughout the year where these organizations get to perform for their peers. So this is stuff that has a lot of overlap with what's going on in classes and in what people end up doing after Oberlin as well. I'm going to turn to the chat for a moment. We have a question about, is it realistic for double degree students to have time to be part of a club? None of us are double degree students. If you send me your email, I will connect you with one of our double degree pals who can speak more to that. But I would say the short answer is yes. I've been a part of clubs with double degree students in the past. The review is certainly the most time intensive student org I was ever a part of during my time at Oberlin as a student. And I had double degree coworkers there. Seems like other people have had this experience as well. So I would say certainly yes, and send me your email and I'll get you somebody who can speak more directly to the double degree experience. Question about O Circus. I don't think any of us are part of O Circus, but I have certainly been to the performances. Anyone else been before? Yeah. Anyone want to?
I'm not a part of it, but I have a couple of friends who are, and I don't know what you want to know about Oberlin Circus, but what I can tell you is that they're a really fun group of people. There's all sorts of stuff that they do, from like juggling, tumbling, to more like aerial stuff as well. Their performances are really amazing. Like there's all kinds of talent that you've never seen before. And also they have, like, even if you don't have the time to join O Circus, they have Tumbleco, which is like a tumbling exco, which, you know, doesn't encompass all of O Circus, but that's like an element of O Circus. And if you're interested in that, you can definitely take that. I think they offer it almost every semester.
Cool, thank you. Akira, if this person puts their email in the chat, would you be willing to follow up with them and connect them with some of the O Circus folks? Thank you. Yeah, so just drop your emails in the chat and we promise we will follow up. And then another question we have here in the chat is, how do you sign up for clubs? Does someone want to take a stab at this?
I can. I would say a lot of the times it depends on the club. Something like, you know, at the far end of this way is like student senate, you have to be elected, you run. Most other clubs, it's not like that at all. Nathan mentioned at the beginning the Connexions Fair, which is at the beginning of the year, you just like walk around and write your name and email on things. And like, that is the easiest way oftentimes. Other than that, like, you know, we all sort of talked about connections we had. In general, it's very easy to sign up for clubs and very easy to get involved. And there's normally kind of low commitment ways to be involved in clubs. And then you can get more connected and more, like commit more. So I would say like, definitely like you can just like cold email people who are involved with orgs from like their websites or the Oberlin website, but also I don't think that you'll have an issue like signing up for clubs once you get on campus.
Yeah, I think my experience when I was a student is very easy to sign up for clubs. People are very eager to have you, and you will quickly be on more mailing lists than you could possibly attend meetings. So, yeah, and that all happens. It can happen in the first week, but it continues to happen throughout your time at Oberlin. We have a question about any role-playing game clubs, like D&D, for example. I'll let other people fill in. I know we have a D&D exco, where students teach other students how to play. And I assume this is Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, there's the exco, and they'll do campaigns in the exco, and then form their own. Once you have graduated from D&D exco, form own campaigns with your friends from there. Any other role-playing game clubs that people are aware of?
I just wanted to add something to the last question about how to sign up for clubs. I just wanted to add on that the MRC, Multicultural Resource Center at Oberlin, always holds like a barbecue or some sort of cookout at the beginning of the year. And that's like a big place where people can get connected to identity orgs a lot of times. They'll have like actual like paper sheets on a table where you can just jot your name down, pronoun, your email to get on those email lists as well.
Great, thank you. We have a question about a club for LGBTQ plus people of different cultures and backgrounds, including people, immigrants or people of color. I think that yes, there are clubs, identity-based clubs in that area, and I think as well the Multicultural Resource Center that Akira was just talking about would be able to connect you either to clubs or to fellow students. I don't know if anyone has any more specific information to add to that.
Yeah, sorry to keep jumping in.
No, please.
But in terms of LGBTQ clubs, I know there's a bunch of like clubs on campus that aren't just focused on like LGBT oh my God, LGBTQ identity, but it's intersections with like being a person of color on top of being part of the LGBTQ community, or being a person of that community studying STEM. So QFR stands for Quantitative and Formal Reasoning in terms of our graduation requirements and what classes we have to take, but it also stands for, there's a club named QFR that's Queer and Formal Reasoning. So that's a space where LGBTQ students studying STEM or like being involved with STEM have a space to kind of talk about those interactions, those intersections of identities. And also ZAMI is a LGBTQ POC space. I'm not part of it, but I know people who are part of that. So if you're curious about that, I can connect you to those people. And like Nathan said, the MRC isn't like an organization or a club itself, but it's a great place to hang out. There's like a physical house that you can go into. The staff, people who work there who are like permanent, or also the student workers in general, are very friendly people and are open to like have conversations, whether it's casual or more deeper conversations about identity and belonging at Oberlin too.
Thank you. And I just put the link to all the info about the MRC into the chat as well, in case people are interested. Okay, so I have a question for all the panelists about, you know, we're talking here today with folks who are on the verge of beginning their time at Oberlin. And then we have folks in here like Henry and Akira who are entering their final year. And so I'm curious if each of you could talk about, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, are the things you ended up doing at Oberlin what you thought you would do coming out of high school? Or are they different? How are they the same? How are they different? And how did that happen?
I would say some of them, yes, have been things that I knew I wanted to get involved in, but some of them, I mean, are things I just would have never expected. So I mean, like kind of what I mentioned before, Student Senate was something I did not think I'd be involved in. I came into Oberlin thinking that I was just going to do creative writing. I really thought I was going to really focus in on the different writing like organizations. Like I thought I came into Oberlin thinking like, oh, you know, I'll get really involved with the Oberlin Review. Have not done that, but have actually really got involved in some of the more political organizations on campus, which I really enjoyed. But it's something that I just never thought that that would be, you know, my thing in college. But it's something that, I mean, I absolutely enjoy being a part of, and I'm going to miss so much at the end of this year.
And Anissa and Fafa, I know I called out the seniors, but I want to hear from you guys on this one too.
I would say, like, and I think I mentioned this a little bit before, I knew I wanted to do some sort of like student journalism. I had no idea that that would be print journalism. I thought that that would be boring, and it hasn't been. For me, I think like the sheer amount of things that you can get involved in has let me like expand and specify my previous interests. So it's not like I've really completely verged off of like, oh, I never would have pictured myself doing this, but there are sort of like more opportunities than I ever would have had in high school or in my hometown, just because OBs are so involved and there's so many things to do. So it's let me like really hone in on like sort of vague interests that I already had.
Yeah, going off of that, I feel like a lot of, in some ways, it's different than what I've had done in high school because there's so many opportunities and like so many things you can get involved in. But I feel like it's still like kind of guiding me in the same way of like what I like and what I'm passionate about. So being involved in like identity-based groups, but also like planning and like having leadership roles has been like really like able to just kind of tell me more of who I am in different ways. But then also joining And What was just something that was like, I had not considered in high school. There wasn't really a dance group. And then I wasn't interested in making my own really. So being able to have the opportunity to do that was really great. And then also still be able to like be in my interest, but like not totally just something that like I knew I was going to be a part of.
And I know Akira talked about this a little bit, but with the Tycho Exco, but a lot of the Excos I found like feel a lot like student orgs. Like I know I took a cryptozoology Exco my freshman year, which was about like animals that don't exist. So Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, like that was the class that I took, and I just took it with a bunch of my friends, and it was super super fun, totally laid back. Something that I absolutely would have never expected to take in college, but I mean, it felt very much like a club, pretty much. And so I think with the Excos also, that's something that you'll find might pull you in ways that you wouldn't anticipate.
Yeah, definitely kind of adding on to that like unexpected theme, but I was a part of the volleyball team in high school, and like I'm pretty short. For those of you who know me, you know I'm 5 foot, but I didn't see myself as like a student athlete in college. But I did want to like start a volleyball club or like join one if there was one, and I did make an attempt to do so, but I realized like having that much of a leadership role as a first year was too much for me. But as Fafa was saying, like through joining like these identity orgs that I always like gravitated towards, or like at least already had an interest in, it was really interesting though how many opportunities of like leadership and organizing arose from just like joining these groups.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And I really appreciate the mention of Exco, because not only do those classes end up kind of feeling like student orgs, but many of them, like Akira's talking about the Tycho Exco, many of them directly lead into student orgs. And the other ones that I'm thinking about are you can take an Exco with the pottery co-op, and then become a member after taking. You can become a member without taking the Exco, but they'll teach you how to. What's the verb? Spin? Do you spin in pottery? Okay, they'll teach you how to spin. And then there's an Exco called Sexco, which is kind of Oberlin's semester-long sex ed class. And I believe that after taking those classes, you're eligible to apply to work at the Sexual Information Center, which is another student org that does a lot of good work on campus. And so, and Exco itself is a student organization, and is run by students. There's a board of students who oversee which courses are offered, oversee the curriculum, allocate funding. So that's another incredible research engagement opportunity. And there are other things like that, especially as you spend more time at Oberlin. The Student Finance Committee is another one that comes to mind. That's a group of students that has oversight of the Student Activity Fund, which is upwards of $1 million in fund activities that are allocated annually, and it's students making those decisions. Student Senate, like Henry is talking about. These are all ways that, there's real responsibility in these student orgs, and you get to learn real tangible skills that way. So I'm glad we got an Exco shout out. Henry, these next two I think are coming right at you. The first is about political clubs on campus. This is from the chat. And so the political clubs on campus, are they more based around activism or are they kind of discussion based?
So there's, I would say, like a really good mix. We have a lot of like politically affiliated clubs on campus. And so, certainly some of them are, much more oriented towards different types of action. But some of them are also really oriented towards facilitating discussion and, raising awareness about different issues. So I think it really depends on the issue itself and about the different org. There are a lot of organizations that are politically affiliated that are focused on like really specific issues. There are some organizations where there are separate organizations that focus on different issues but go about addressing them in different ways. So I think that's something that it varies a lot, but I think that depending on, regardless of what you're looking for, there are definitely opportunities for it.
Cool. And then we have a question about, and this one could be broader as well for the whole group, but I'll start with Henry. Are there creative writing clubs or student publications that work with and accept genre fiction on campus?
Yeah, so we have several literary magazines on campus that all kind of tackle literature from a different perspective. So Plum Creek Review accepts any type of creative writing and any type of visual art. We have the Synapse, which I think focuses on science fiction and like scientific writings. We also have the True Groves Review, which I think focuses a lot on nonfiction, literary criticism, and poetry. But there are like several other publications on campus that all kind of accept different forms of literature. But I think when it comes to fiction, Plum Creek Review certainly accepts fiction. Synapse accepts certain types. It has to be that science fiction. And there are several other publications that I'm forgetting right now. But I think if you're interested in writing fiction, if you're looking for places to get it published, there's certainly no shortage of options that you have.
I also want to plug in As I Am, which is Asian American zine that's published every semester. And As I Am accepts all kinds of writing, all kinds of art, since it is a zine. So if you identify as Asian American or Asian in America, that's what As I Am stands for. Feel free to submit to that as well. And I can connect you to people who are involved with As I Am if you're interested.
Awesome. Does anyone else have anything to add on the fiction front or the political clubs front? Cool. So I think that we're coming up on the end here. And I'm going to drop my email in the chat as well in case folks have things they want to follow up on that they didn't have a chance to ask. But I guess I want to close by, and I didn't prep this question ahead of time, so I'm putting all the panelists on the spot. If you could talk about just kind of one of your fondest moments with a student club or Oregon campus. And it could be something super small, like something funny or silly that happened, or just, I don't know, a feeling of all-encompassing warmth or something anywhere in between. Fafa, you had a big smile at that one.
With ASA, we were preparing but right before we had to go to remote studying for Colors of Rhythm, which is the MRC hosting a big concert site of celebration of different people's cultures and their individual and group performances. And ASA, the African Students Association, was supposed to perform. And one of an upcoming third year had organized, Cyril Monfort, he had organized a dance and singing thing that we were doing. And it was like really like cool and like, it was just fun, like hanging out with everyone that I saw like sometimes in the club meetings, but also just seeing them dance and like just goofing off. And I think I have a video of us goofing off in rehearsal and singing like, what is it? Like In the Jungle, like the one that's in The Lion King, and just goofing off. It makes me happy.
A fond moment I can think of, when you proposed the question, I immediately thought of one of our last meals at TWIC at my co-op. We had a lot of vegetables left and we had a lot of tofu left, so we had a big feast. Usually we only have like 3 people on a cooking shift, but since we're like dwindling down and people had less stuff to do, a lot of people joined the cook shift, and it was just like a big feast at the very end. Everyone was like really happy to see each other and just like spend time with each other. And we also sometimes we have like music playing as we're eating as well. But this time we had like speakers blasting music inside of the co-op, and we were all singing along to Kesha. For some reason, we were all like nostalgic and listened to Kesha. And in the end, or actually during the meal, we actually took time to step out next to the AJLC. There's this, like, beautiful, like, tiny pond, but there's like a beautiful rocky area by it. So we took like a group picture there just to like remember the TWIC members of like spring 20. And yeah, that was just like a big feast / party that I will never forget.
I think my memory is probably from last year. The Oberlin College Democrats went to attend the College Democrats of Ohio conference. I had never like really attended a conference. I hadn't been as involved in the club last year as much as I'd wanted to. And it was about an hour and a half away. And I got stuck in the car with a bunch of people that I didn't really know and drove there and back in one day. But like I made a ton of friends. The people in the car are like people that like I really think of as being really close friends now. That whole day was just very, very chaotic, but it felt like very comfortable because the community that I had sort of developed over that hour and a half drive was already like so tight. And I mean, afterwards we went out for ice cream and we like drove, I think we went to Popeyes and got dinner or Chipotle with one of the two. But I mean, that to me just really sticks out in my memory as like a moment where I met a ton of people that like I did not know and had like a really, really great time through this one club.
I'm having a hard time like saying something, not because I can't think of something, but because I am like just thinking of too many things. But at the end of every year for the review, we have like a little senior send-off type thing where we celebrate the seniors who work for the review at that time. And you know, my first year, coronavirus didn't happen and it was a normal end of the year. So we had like a really fantastic party and we have all these cool little traditions. And then this year, obviously, like the year was cut short, and me and one of my friends, Zoe, who also works at the review as a sports editor, we kind of like in one day tried to make like a very last minute party for the seniors. And that was like really meaningful to me. But honestly, like every week I have like pretty good, fantastic experiences with like the organizations I'm part of. So it's hard for me to come up with just one thing.
And Anissa is being humble. She made these very fantastic and lovely hats for all of the seniors that say alumni of the Oberlin Review.
I love that you have it right there, Nathan.
I have it ready to go. But yeah, thank you all for sharing those wonderful moments. And I know that you could talk about those all night. But we do have to wrap up. I'm dropping my email into the chat and I'll leave it there for a second. So copy and paste it over. If you want to get in touch about anything, or if you're already in your Oberlin account, you can just type in Nathan Carpenter and it'll come up. But thank you all so much for being here tonight, for these wonderful questions. I hope you learned something. I hope you're excited about student clubs and orgs at Oberlin. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. I can answer them myself or connect you with any of these panelists or any other student at Oberlin who'd you be interested to talk to. But yeah, so thank you to the panelists. Thank you to everyone who joined us tonight, and have a good night, everybody.